Well, hello there, how is everyone? I hope you're all well. Oh, it's video 2 of 2, and you are amazing. Look amazing, you are amazing. Thank you for being here, thank you for giving me your time. Your time is the most precious thing. I don't ask for money, I don't want your money. Your time, your patience, your comments, just that's enough. That's enough for me. I'm not entirely crowdfunded. This is a monetized and ad revenue obtaining channel. And I want you to not have to think about anything else, not think about having to pay for stuff, buy stuff. Just be here and enjoy the content. Sometimes don't enjoy it and let me know why you don't, and let's be adults about it. Anyway, I digress, which is something I do often. But what we're talking about is, this was a conversation that spurned off of this Linda Lane footage, where another creator, Get a Clue, like me and Get a Clue have got a bit of a backwards and forwards thing, because Get a Clue is a bit of a, how can I say, a misinformation, disinformation warrior. They don't like things going out that they feel is misinformation or disinformation. And sometimes channels like mine, not just mine, but mine, will stumble across disinformation, misinformation, and we discuss it, we talk about it. Might be sent a video by someone and we'll get it and we'll say, go and have a look. I can't tell you whether this is a genuine video, whether it's, showing what it looks like it's showing. Go and have a look. And people like Get a Clue don't like it. They hate it. And I understand why, because they feel that only genuine and, how can I say, accurate information should exist on a platform when talking about a real life event. The downside is, you can't always have your cake and eat it. And what I mean is, you can't always get answers without digging through the mud to find them. And that's a fact. That is an absolute fact. And sometimes law enforcement and the process gets it wrong. We've seen it in cases big and small, and many, many, many. And let's not forget the statistics that only 50%, around 50% of homicides in the United States of America alone get solved in the first place. So that's 50% not getting solved at all. Now, if you was a football manager, if that was the manager of England and they had a 50% success rate on matches, they'd be told to get fucking shot. So look, let's just say let's let that sit for a second. So look, I get it, but this Linda Lane footage, so we release a video and then we have to release another video to say, do you know what? Subsequently, after being sent that, somebody sent me this video and it clearly shows a certain thing. And I know this footage is ongoing. There's more stuff coming out as we speak. More stuff. There's and people are turning around and saying, even Get a Clue was saying, look, and this is what I found a little bit contradictory, because Get a Clue turns around and says, look, I felt that at the end of that video, you kind of stated that this video, the Linda Lane footage, wasn't worth anything. It didn't need to be considered, when in fact you were wrong. You were wrong, Harsh, you were wrong. Because it was very important, perhaps pertinent to the defence's case, because we have someone who is acting incredibly suspicious around a waste receptacle, a dumpster, as you guys call it affectionately in the US. I like that word, actually, dumpster. I don't know who I think of when I think of dumpster either. Anyway, again, I digress. So yeah, they were a little bit upset, they were a little bit annoyed, because they felt that I was kind of just saying, no, this Linda Lane footage isn't worth anything. I said, look, this is how I feel about it. You're basically saying that we can't talk about certain things. And, we talk about, like, this person walking over and what it looks like in this other piece of footage. But then you will turn around and say that this piece of footage could potentially contain exculpatory evidence because it's someone who is acting bizarre within it. Someone who seemingly gets out a flashlight of some description, they're looking at the bin, they walk off, and some people are arguing, saying they're getting on the phone. I think he's actually taking the drag from a cigarette, who knows? And to be honest, I don't care, because I think to myself, this footage must have been somebody who was spoken to by law enforcement. Must have been. I feel that if you trust law enforcement, and what I mean by that, and this is now where you have to now decide whether you trust them or you don't. And many people turn around and say, all of you guys, you don't trust law enforcement. They've got the information, they've got the PCA, they're not going to tell you what they've got. They're not going to tell you all the evidence. And by thinking this or thinking that, thinking that Brian Koberger might be innocent, what, you are not trusting the system and you are an idiot. And you've got the people like Jennifer Coffin-Digger who will be heavily advocating for law enforcement and the job that they're doing. So with that in mind, you must accept that the person within the Linda Lane footage, bearing in mind they were someone in the area, acting suspicious on the night this happened, and they're caught on camera, quite clearly, they would have been spoken to. If they weren't, then that brings into question the entire investigation, because if they're not even speaking to people who was in the area. Because remember, Brian Koberger went on the radar for some time. They certainly hadn't arrested him for even longer. So they had a long enough time where they didn't have a suspect, but we know they did, or apparently did, countless investigative conversations. They interviewed people and cleared many more. Well, all of them apparently. So look, this person in this video, I can only assume, if you trust in law enforcement and the job that they're doing, that they've had a discussion and cleared this person. And he was just an athletic bin diver. But, look, this is the truth of it all. There are so many people around this case, and there's a harsh reality to it, and that is this. Brian Koberger may be the person who's behind bars at the moment. He might be the person who's waiting and facing trial and potentially a death penalty. But he has not been found guilty beyond a reasonable doubt yet. And there are many questions around this case. Many questions. Like we do have this guy who's walking around in a funny hour of the night, and you've got people who will turn around and say, well, Brian Koberger driving around in his car at night at this hour, that is flat out weird. Because he was doing that, he's a killer. That is a terrible, terrible alibi. Well, imagine the fucking alibi of the guy who's walking around at the same fucking time with a flashlight looking in bins. Which alibi is best? Because they've both got the same fucking shitty alibi. Anyway, I do get a little bit carried away at these things. But look, so the reality is, there's a lot of people around this case, a lot of people who could have potentially been involved in some way, shape or form, whether you like it or not. Whether you like it or not, the situation with the delay in the 911 call stinks of shit, and however you look at it, however you try and sugarcoat it, there's no excuse for it. Nothing. I spoke in video 1 today why I can't get my head over it. And if you haven't seen video 1, I suggest you go and look, because that will recap on some important information that came out that will look really deep at these crimes themselves and will further feed into this. I can't understand how that evening played out the way it did. You've got people who have apparently left this area never to return. You've got a situation where nobody's seemingly talking to anybody anymore. So all of these people who had forged relationships, had friends, everybody just left. And nobody talks to each other anymore. Nobody's talking. Nobody's coming out and saying anything about anyone. And there's two things that do that. That is fear or control. And you can be controlled by fear. People can simply think, I'm scared. And for that reason, I'm not talking, I'm keeping out. I'm keeping away from there and I'm not saying anything. Social media, dead. Gone, bang, dead in the water. All of these people, nothing at all. So, scared by fear or controlled by fear, or controlled by someone who's telling people you can't talk, you can't speak. You keep your mouth shut. There's nothing to see here. Nothing. And who has that power? I feel that if this was a simple crime, it was a crime where somebody had fallen for someone, and this is something that we speak about in video 1, And I do feel there's things within the crime itself that could point to that. Yes, there is. Yes, there is. The flip side of the coin is if it's that simple, why doesn't it appear to be that simple? Why is this so complex, so complicated? If they've got the man, they know who did it, and the person who's currently sitting there waiting to go through due process, and they are going to prove, they're going to lay all their shit bare, even if it's a trial by ambush. They don't care. It is what it is. Maybe they've got one smoking gun and they don't want to give the defence team enough time to play with it and try and angle it because they know Ann Taylor has the ability to do it. So they're thinking, fuck her, we're not going to tell her, we'll leave it until the last minute, have that, and watch everyone's face drop. Maybe it is just that, an ace in the hole. But why is nobody talking? Nobody saying anything? Life is not carrying on. And I know that some people turn around and say, well, life can't carry on as normal. But for the people around this case, the close people, time seems to have just stopped. Time just seems to have stopped. And there's people who have very, very swiftly moved and got themselves well out of Dodge. And that, to me, looks bizarre. Looks odd. Let me know down below what you think. This has been a bit of a ramble. I got a bit frustrated at times. But sometimes we just spitball. We just talk. We knock heads and see what we think. Enjoy the rest of your day, you wonderful, wonderful person. I will catch you all in the next one.